Chairman, thank you, Mr. Secretary, for being here this morning. Last summer, the USDA failed to conduct federally mandated grain inspections at the Port of Vancouver, the West Coast's largest grain terminal, for several weeks due to safety concerns that resulted from an ongoing labor dispute. And it was over a month where tens of millions of dollars of wheat harvests were put at risk. I remember driving in my pickup across Montana, stopping in Great Falls. Our family roots are north of Great Falls. They're in the Conrad area. They were wheat farmers, homesteaders, where you've got farmers coming off of their combines to meet with me, desperate, looking what's going on with the backup going on out the port. And I don't think anybody disputed the need for the Secretary to have discretion in case of an emergency, but it took the USDA 5 weeks, and until after these safety concerns were resolved, to provide these following mitigations. There was a crosswalk removed, some Jersey barriers installed, backup power sources for surveillance video, additional parking spots, some temporary inspectors. And to me, it's unacceptable. It took 5 weeks to produce these simple and low-cost mitigations, all the while the livelihoods of grain growers in Montana across much of the West were threatened. As you know, the United Grain Company and others offered to provide extensive mitigations during this disruption of the inspections, including several of these that USDA ultimately put forward. So considering USG's willingness to address any safety concerns, could Montana grain have been exported sooner if the USDA's analysis was completed more promptly?
Senator, I would like an opportunity to delve more deeply into your question to be able to respond to it accurately. I was not under the impression that there was a significant delay. There was some uncertainty as to precisely who was going to inspect the grain and how safe the circumstances and conditions were. But I would be more than happy to take a look at this to determine whether or not it negatively impacted and affected your producers. Obviously, that wouldn't be the intent.
Well, I'd be happy to get our farmers together here and chat, because it was a great concern as we're looking at backing up here and not seeing an end as the port was shut down for 5 weeks. And you know, back in November of 13, 8 months before the inspections were interrupted in July of 14, there were several members of Congress, including myself, that urged the department to be prepared and have an executable plan in place that can be implemented immediately to ensure the inspections were not interrupted. And that was in direct reference to the labor dispute and the situation occurring at the Port of Vancouver. So we were just curious why there were not these plans put in place when this disruption of inspections occurred.
Well, I think there are plans that are in place. The challenge, though, is knowing precisely what's happening on the ground at that particular time, which is why there had to be a safety assessment to determine precisely what needed to be done to protect our people. And there were a variety of other options that were being looked at and examined relative to patrols and law enforcement involvement as well. So that's why I'd like to be able to refresh my memory specifically as it relates to that particular circumstance.
Sure. Well, I think what will be helpful is I know some of my Montana producers have expressed concerns that the department simply played out the clock by not identifying the mitigations until after the labor dispute was resolved. And I guess in the interest of transparency and to help address these concerns, I'd like to put this to bed. I'd ask if you'd release the 3 safety reports that were conducted during the duration of the lockout, and I'm happy to do that in a non-public setting if necessary. Would you be willing to release those reports?
I don't know what the rules and regulations are relative to these safety reports, Senator, so I don't want to run afoul of any technical regulation, but I'd be more than happy to have an opportunity to talk to my staff and see whether there is any objection. If there's not, I'd be more than happy to.
I'd be happy to see those reports, and I think it's relevant to me, it's relevant to our grain growers across Montana, that the USDA's decisions are transparent and held to account, and I would ask you to release those reports for review as soon as possible.
If I can, Senator, I'll be glad to cooperate with you. I just don't want to make a commitment to you because I don't know what the rules and regulations are relative to disclosing these reports. If there's some security reason or some reason we can't do it by statute or by regulation, but if there's not, I'm more than happy.
I think it's important to remember that we're here to serve the people, not the other way around, and having transparency in that process, particularly with our Montana farmers who were gravely concerned about getting their products to port, I think it helped restore the trust that I think it frankly is broken down. Mr. Chairman, I'm out of time.
Senator Daines, thank you very much. Senator Blunt.